Hey there, welcome back. We are talking about bridges out of poverty, roads away from poverty, which, if you're honest with yourself, most of us are about 2 checks away from some pretty uncomfortable financial situations. If you need an example, take a look at what happened to our economy just a few years ago and the impact it had on the number of foreclosures and the number of folks who lost health insurance. So those folks that you're looking at and saying, why are they poor? You know what? Could be you. Could be you. So we're talking about ways to sort of move away from that with the understanding that poverty, living in poverty is not a comfortable place to live. It's not a comfortable place to be. Folks don't enjoy living in poverty. They are not having multiple kids that they cannot afford so that they can get financial aid. If you were watching us last week, Crystal did a great job of explaining why just the opposite of that is true. Financial aids on several areas tend to be cut if you if you've got a small job that you're trying to use to support yourself or whatever. So we're going to talk a little bit more today about ways to get out of this. So.
And today we are talking about strategies, and just kind of want to reiterate just a little bit what we talked about last week, just for those of them that missed the show. Poverty is it's not just about financial, and we know what it feels like not to be able to pay your bills, or the money runs out before the end of the month.
Right.
But it's also about relationships. Just having that, what we call in Bridges Out of Poverty, having that social capital. And so again, if you only have in your circle, if you only have people, what we call bonding capital, people that are in the same situation that you're in, and everyone's in survival mode. And so when we're again, when Stephen mentioned, every day the car is breaking down. We're trying to figure out how we're going to get to work. One of the kids are sick and you can't drop them off at daycare. And so people in poverty are always managing the crisis of the day.
Of the minute. That's exactly
of the
right.
minute. It was amazing.
Right.
We do mental models, and we have them to create mental models of what your life is like now. And there was a woman who did a mental model where she drew a stick figure of herself, and there was these circles in the air. And so when she got up and talked about what her mental model represent, it was like, I get up in the morning, and whatever ball falls off the air first, that's what I deal with. Wow. And so when you're living in that type of environment all the time, it's very difficult to plan. And this is where we come in when we have a curriculum that we teach people in poverty how to. It's called Getting Ahead in a Getting By World. And what we do is we meet with them twice a week, and we take them through this process, through this journey, where they're looking at every area of their life. And so not only just financial, but we're looking at your mental resource and your physical, your spiritual.
To try and add some coordination to all of those, some organization to all of those.
Because
right?
If you don't know, sometimes we don't sit down and we don't look at we don't look at every area of our life. But when we're able to do that and able to talk about it, and then able to put some meaning to what's happening and how we're managing our lives, it's amazing the level of awareness. And as we take what we call our investigators through this particular curriculum, we would never tell them what to do, but we believe that if we give you enough information, that you're going to figure out exactly what your next steps need to be.
Those next steps out of the current life situation?
How to build resources, where you're at, where you're stuck at.
So is it that folks are stuck and they don't know how to move forward? Is that the issue?
That's a piece of it. You don't know what you don't know. And part of the thing when you're talking about theories of change, which have been researched, you don't change because I tell you need to do it. When you change because something happened, somebody gave you some support to think about what you wanted. When my mom quit smoking, it was because her husband, who she married and lived with till she passed on, he told her, I love you, I want you to be with me forever, please stop smoking. And she made the decision based on that relationship. So we need to use the power of relationships. Relationship is the driving force for people in poverty. And we need to use the power of relationship. And when they can make the argument for change,
so what would I say?
That's when they change.
So what would someone in a relationship with someone that was living in poverty, what
Let me
power
let
do
me
they have?
give you
How do
one-
they say
quick-
that?
Let me give
Go
you
ahead.
one concrete example here. Ohio means jobs at the source. I mean, people in poverty, especially anybody in this economy with a changing economy, people need to build their mental skills. They need to get better at reading, writing, computing, and doing math, right? Ohio means jobs at the source has this amazing computer software through ACT called WorkKeys, but people struggle to work on it. So we need relationships with people, allies, support people to help folks to get in and work on anything that they need to do to build their resources.
Yeah, but surely if I went to Crystal, and Crystal was somebody I was related to, and she was living in poverty, and I said, Crystal, I really care about you, and I want you to live a better life. Certainly that's not what you're talking about, is it?
Well, it depends on the relationship. It depends. And just for instance, just the ladies that I'm working with, there's a couple of men, but I work also with some of the ladies that gone through my program. And since they've gone through Getting Ahead and the Getting By World, I still work with them because I'm teaching them how to build social capital. And social capital is people in your life that can give you resource. People from middle class, people that are not in survival mode, people that are not struggling, and that can take you by the hand and show you how to navigate again through a system. For instance, there was one of my graduates she wanted to go back to school. That was a piece of her life plan. And so what they did, she was connected with a retired professor from the University of Toledo, and she would help her to edit her papers. She would give her encouragement.
So it's
she
like
would help her.
mentoring and role modeling
Yeah,
and that sort of thing.
Yes, and that helped her not only to stay in, but it also was a support person that was going to encourage her, not say,
Not
oh
to-
my God, this is crazy, I can't do it, why are
Right,
you doing this?
right.
And so it's very important that we connect ourselves, and not only people from poverty, people in middle class that's looking to get, into different arenas, or when we talk about building resources around achievement, because that's a driving force for people in middle class is achievement. It's important, those role models, support systems, when you feel like you can't go on, based on who you have in your life that's going to encourage you to keep moving forward. That is such a huge piece when you're trying to move from poverty to middle class, or even middle class to wealth. And that is a piece of it, support
All right,
systems.
support system. What's another strategy?
Well, let me add on to that one too. Faith communities, and if people, I think you're putting my email up on the screen. People can email me, and we can get Bridges Out of Poverty trainings to folks. I'll match them up with a trainer at their agency or through the Bridges Out of Poverty steering committee that we run. We'll hook them up with trainings. But churches
Are an
and faith
important
communities,
resources.
yeah,
All right.
they're working with folks in poverty all the time,
the
and they
time.
don't have the information or understanding as how to be effective.
Give
that's a
me
great
another spiritual
strategy.
strategy. I want another strategy from you guys. So we talked about the importance of mentoring. We've got about 4 minutes left, which is
Okay.
what I'm trying to push you
Right.
through. So what's another strategy then that folks should know about for moving out of poverty?
In order to build social capital,
Is building social capital the primary strategy for
There-
getting out of poverty?
That's one of the biggest strategies because for people in poverty, they have to know that there's how to connect with the resource. This when we're navigating through a system, again, just knowing how to move from one place to another. And they don't know how. We make an assumption that people know this because we know this,
But they
it's
don't.
very difficult in just being able to communicate what they need.
Okay.
let me just, because we're short on time, if you're looking at individuals in poverty and what they need to do, it's usually around building resources. And again, as Crystal has said, financial is not the only one. Spiritual resource, emotional resource, integrity, mental resources, the reading, writing, math, computing. There's 11 resources that we could talk about that people can work on to build, and each person needs to build different resources. And it's not like the three of us at this table, we can work on resources too, right? Everybody, this is
Absolutely.
part of what it is to be human. But that's what gets you stable and helps you to achieve. But then there's also, for example, there was an article in The Blade recently about lead paint in primarily poor neighborhoods in Toledo. So lead paint, we know this.
All right, so-
but cleaning up red paint,
All
that's
right.
going to have an effect on poverty.
Okay, but at the end of the day, living in a house with lead paint removed is not going to move somebody out of poverty. We've talked about
It does
building
over
resources.
time,
it helps.
though.
Okay, it's one of
Yes.
many things
If you,
that helps.
if you don't have brain damage,
But we've talked
you're more
about
successful.
Yeah.
about building social capital as being really important. One of the things that you mentioned last week that I was really intrigued by were those hidden rules. Those hidden rules. In the next couple of minutes, I'd like to talk about those hidden rules because it is a major issue for folks to move from a lifestyle of poverty into another whole strata where the behavior is different. We talked last week about the language being different. Hidden rules. Can you guys think of any?
Yeah, well, let me start on this too, and just to talk in general about the hidden rules. If schools, both K through 12, higher ed, if businesses, if organizations that serve people in poverty, or courts, if all these institutions don't understand the hidden rules, there's going to be conflicts with people in poverty, and they're not going to do as good a job as
Give
they
me a
could.
hidden
So
rule.
go ahead.
Give me a
So when
hidden
we
rule.
talk about the hidden rule, again, for people in poverty, relationships are very an important hidden rule is having those relationships or just being in survival, the turning of the moment, again, living in the present. It's not about the future, it's not about years from now, but it's about living in the present and fixing things that are broken today. For people in middle class, the focus is, or the driving force is the present. We're going to get in prevention, we're going to have insurance, and so we're going to do things that's going to prevent, that's going to allow us to have a better life later. So
than-
before we walk into a bank and we're going to take a loan, we're going to ask what's the interest rate
And all that's
and all of those things. And so it's about future ramifications.
You know, clearly there is so much to talk about around this issue, and we don't get a chance to do that. But when you come back with us, we're going to tell you how to learn more out of Bridges Out of Poverty. More about Bridges Out of Poverty.